Good evening, everyone. Ashcroft here, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of the Rot Report, a weekly gathering dedicated to the strange, the unsettling, and the steadily decaying landscape of horror. Each week, we examine what has surfaced, whether it be films, video games, announcements, or controversies that were unfortunate enough to become public. And occasionally, something generally worth discussing. So tonight, we sift through the remains of the week, the good, the terrible, and maybe even the decisions made by executives who should not be trusted in any franchises. I will, of course, be judging all of it along with you. And it seems that the internet has won. A24's Backrooms posted the highest opening weekend ever for an original horror movie, pulling in an astonishing $81.4 million domestically and debuting at #1 at the box office this last weekend. A film based on a creepypasta born from YouTube and wandering through suspiciously moist office hallways has just made horror history. I would like to just appreciate just how absurd this actually is. Not remake history, not sequel history, original horror history. An entirely new horror film outperformed decades of Hollywood expectations. And the director, 20. At 20 years old, most people are trying to survive college, but Kane Parsons is out here reshaping the industry. I think it's safe to say at this point that this is no longer a coincidence. First Obsession, now Backrooms. We are witnessing a generation of filmmakers skip the traditional ladder entirely. They built audiences online, they learned storytelling online, and now they're taking box office records with them. Backrooms succeeds because it understands a very modern fear. Not monsters, not killers, but disconnection. Whether it be empty spaces, artificial environments, and the feeling that reality itself is somehow wrong. And what excites me most is what this means for the genre going forward. These strange ideas, specific visions, and weird little nightmares that should never work are proving how horror thrives when it embraces risk. And Backrooms feels like a reward for taking that risk. I also deeply appreciate that humanity has collectively looked at an infinite maze of yellow office walls and decided that this is the most terrifying thing imaginable, which says alarming things about office culture. Backrooms isn't just a box office story, it's a signal. A signal that audiences are hungry for new horror, new voices, new nightmares, and somewhere right now, there's a teenager out there with a strange little horror idea on a YouTube channel that just realized that Hollywood is no longer as far away as it used to be. Now, I need everyone to understand just how insane Obsession's story has become over these weeks. Kerry Barker's Obsession has now accomplished something that sounds completely made up. After opening to roughly $17 million, it climbed to $24 million in its second weekend, a record in cinema history, and now it has climbed again to $27 million in its third weekend. This is a movie that is refusing to obey mathematics and breaking literally every record there is along the way. Horror movies are supposed to drop. That's the arrangement. You know, you open big, you scare people, and then the numbers slowly decline. But Obsession appeared to have looked at that tradition and thrown it directly into a wood chipper. This is the first film since 1982 to increase at the box office during both its second and third weekend since E.T. This is no longer marketing, this is infection. People are dragging their friends to theaters, people are posting reactions, and people are returning for repeat viewings, which is deeply ironic for a movie called Obsession. The audience themselves have become the title. Jerry Barker went from making YouTube content not long ago to having one of the most profitable horror films ever made. And as of today, Obsession has grossed roughly $161.5 million worldwide. That is the sort of profit margin that causes studio executives to temporarily leave their bodies entirely. And what's happening right now is bigger than just one movie. Backrooms exploded. Obsession exploded. Both of them are original horror movies, both creator-driven, both proving that audiences will absolutely show up for something new. For years, we've heard that audiences only want franchises, sequels, and familiar brands, and then Obsession arrived and started punching through every industry assumption one weekend at a time, and continues to do so. We truly are watching the birth of some of horror's next major filmmakers in real time, because movies don't do this. Weekend 3 is supposed to be the recovery, but instead Obsession is somehow still growing, and at this point, I am beginning to suspect that the One Wish Willow may actually be real. It's made so much money that they have completely backtracked on the digital release date that was originally slated for June 2nd and have pulled it entirely out the calendar. So we will see just how far its legs can go. But either way, this is a once-in-a-lifetime run that Obsession is on, and I, for one, am absolutely here for it, and it deserves to be celebrated week in and week out here on the Rut Report. Now, there's a lot of video game news this week, and for good reason. We had a state of play here a day or two ago, and of course, somewhere, wherever it is, a butterfly just flapped its wing, because after more than a decade, Until Dawn 2 has officially been announced for PlayStation 5, with a release planned for 2027. Now, this is not a direct continuation of the original story. This is a standalone sequel with a brand new cast and setting, which means a whole new group of attractive young people are about to make catastrophically poor decisions. So let us have a look at the trailer before we proceed, because I've actually not seen any of these trailers.
Akashima Island, haunted by dark stories. Our goal, confront the evil, corrupting paradise. This is Dead True International.
Thanks. Come on, let's get a photo together.
Over! Rotated on that one.
A for effort, dude.
Who's the buff idiot?
Does no one know this guy?
This is how villains are made. This is
Oh, you two haven't met yet, right?
Sebastian, I'll be looking out for you. Roland, whenever you're ready.
This facility has been shut down for decades. Uninvestigated, untold, until now.
This is how villains are made.
Did you hear that?
Nate, are you out there? We gotta go. Right!
I have a bad feeling.
Let's get rid of it.
Grip it tight.
Go! He's coming! Through there!
Take a deep breath. Fuck! Which way? Steady the mind.
We're gonna have to jump!
This rock's down there!
Can you do what needs to be done?
There you have it. I will say that the original Until Dawn was really lightning in a bottle. It was a love letter to slasher films, a choose-your-own disaster simulator, and one of the few games where accidentally sneezing could get someone killed. This time, the story follows a group of ghost hunters who run a paranormal channel called Dead True. The catch? They've apparently been taking the supernatural encounters right up until they discover something generally horrifying on a remote island. Horror once again proving that influencers should not investigate cursed locations. Now, here's the part that has been dividing fans. The original was developed by Supermassive Games. Until Dawn 2 was being developed by Firesprite, or the studio behind Horizon Call of the Mountain. The studio is entering unfamiliar territory, and horror fans are famously calm and reasonable when it comes to major changes to their beloved franchises. As you saw, Peter Stormare's Dr. Hill is returning, which immediately makes everything feel more Until Dawn, because no matter what nightmare you're trapped in, eventually Dr. Hill appears and starts asking some deeply invasive questions. The snowy mountain has been replaced with a haunted tropical island, and honestly, I appreciate that change. Snowy isolation is terrifying, but tropical isolation is just, honestly, vacation-themed doom. I do love seeing this resurgence of cinematic horror games, whether it be Until Dawn, The Quarry, Directive 8020. People love making choices and immediately regretting them. It is a deeply human pastime. Every conversation matters, every choice matters, and every player becomes convinced that they can save absolutely everyone, despite the fact that more times than not, they usually cannot. I also appreciate the fact that our protagonists here are chasing a viral hit on a haunted island. Can you just imagine being devoured by an ancient evil because your content calendar needed engagement? I just need Until Dawn 2 to understand what made the first game special. It had characters that you actually cared about, impossible choices, and the growing realization that every decision that you made was the wrong one. It's also, coincidentally, also how I feel after every horror movie marathon. In other video game news, after years of appearing, disappearing, and reappearing like a cryptid in the woods, Team Cloud's first-person survival horror game, Ill, has finally resurfaced with a brand new trailer and a 2027 release window, and somehow it looks even more upsetting than it did before. Here is the trailer for that one.
There's a wounded man. Nasty injuries. It's like a beast tore him apart.
A beast? Out here? Are you drunk or something? Do him up and show him out. But he's still weak, so be careful.
What's going on?
Save your ammo.
Die, bastard. And you're tough. Surprisingly lively for someone who just came out of a coma.
If you want to survive, you gotta hustle. You fell from the moon.
I will help you, but you must not go there.
I'll take my chances. Turns out I'm a lucky man.
You'll find nothing there. But death.
Well, good luck. Keep quiet in there.
My word. That trailer was not interested in subtlety at all. Bones break, flesh tears, and monsters convulse in ways that anatomy strongly discourages. What immediately stands out is the body horror there. Not just gore, but transformation, mutation, and that horrifying sense that the human body has forgotten how it's supposed to work. Now, Ill takes place in a massive research fort overrun by grotesque creatures known as aberrations, which means that scientists have once again demonstrated that curiosity is a deeply dangerous hobby. And I love how physical everything feels about this. The enemies don't just attack. They writhe, they contort, and they look like they were assembled incorrectly before being forced to continue living anyway. Ill appears heavily focused on the physics-based interactions, environmental danger, realistic weapon handling, and strategic survival mechanics. This game wants you to feel uncomfortable at all times, which is a noble design philosophy. But what fascinates me about this is the team behind it, most of which have backgrounds in horror film production, with connections to movies like Longlegs, VHS Beyond, It's Welcome to Derry, and other genre productions. So when they say that they understand horror, they're actually coming back at you with the receipts. Ill might become one of the most anticipated games of 2027, not because it looks fun, but because it looks unforgettable. Or doesn't need to be comfortable, it needs to linger, and judging by that trailer, Ill intends to live rent-free inside our collective consciousness for quite some time. And it would appear that the fog is rolling in yet again. Konami has dropped a brand new trailer for Silent Hill Townfall, confirming a September 24th, 2026 release date for both PlayStation 5 and PC. Here's the trailer.
Who's there?
Simon. Are you there? Please say something. Where did you go, Simon?
Something doesn't feel right. Zoe? I'm sorry, Zoe?
What are you doing here?
What the hell is that?
There's more of them.
I'm so sorry.
The game follows Simon Odell, who finds himself drawn to the isolated Scottish town of St. Amelia, where something is very, very wrong. Now, one thing I immediately love is this move to Scotland. Fog, remote coastlines in a tiny town with a deeply concerning atmosphere. This is the kind of place that has local history that nobody dares to speak about openly. The trailer here feels raw, and I mean that as a compliment. Everything looks familiar, but slightly displaced. It's like reality has slipped half an inch sideways. It brings a sort of classic Silent Hill energy. Now, I know for some fans, there's still debate in the first-person perspective, but I think it works here. When horror gets close enough that you can practically feel it breathing, the experience becomes much harder to escape. And Townfall is fully first-person and appears to focus heavily on psychological horror, puzzles, exploration, and survival. But my favorite detail might actually be the CRTV. A strange, portable television that helps detect threats and appears to reveal things you'd rather not know about. So naturally, I want to go out and get one immediately. The CRTV functions as a central gameplay mechanic, helping players uncover clues, locate threats, and interact with the game's mysteries. I appreciate that the protagonist wakes up in an unfamiliar town with missing memories, surrounded by supernatural horrors, and decides to keep investigating anyway. Shows remarkable confidence and questionable judgment that makes for an excellent horror protagonist. Townfall feels like exactly the kind of weird, atmospheric, uncomfortable experience that Silent Hill should be. Not louder or bigger, but stranger. And if that trailer is any indication, September is going to be very unpleasant. And in Silent Hill, that is usually a good sign. In other video game news, Michael Myers is getting more real estate. Illuphonic and Gunn Interactive unveiled the second major map for Halloween the game, which is Haddonfield Town Center. A new trailer showcases a bustling heart of Haddonfield, complete with shops, parks, businesses, and plenty of places for terrified survivors to make regrettable decisions. It seems that Michael Myers is no longer limited to stalking suburban neighborhoods. It can now ruin your shopping trip as well, so let's take a look at this new trailer. September is going to be a very big month for us. I can't wait for that. Now, one of the smartest things that this game has been doing, at least with Haddonfield, is it's treating it like a character. This is not just a map, it's not just a backdrop, it is a living place. If the original Halloween taught us anything, it's that terror works best when it invades ordinary spaces. The town center appears packed with landmarks, bars, parks, retail stores, and even a costume shop, which feels like a deeply unfortunate place to encounter the boogeyman. Imagine seeing a masked figure in a Halloween costume store. You get approximately 10 seconds before realizing that this is no longer festive. What I appreciate about these map reveals is that they're building playgrounds, places where stories can happen, where survivors can hide, where Michael can stalk, and where friendships can be permanently damaged during multiplayer sessions. Now, the thing that separates Michael from many other villains is his patience. Jason charges forward, Leatherface panics waving his chainsaw around all willy-nilly, and Michael simply just arrives. A larger, more detailed Haddonfield gives him more opportunities to do exactly that. Now, a great horror map should feel safe right up until it doesn't. And the town center appears bright, normal, and familiar, which is why it works. Because Michael Myers was never at his scariest in haunted castles. It was scary in neighborhoods, in backyards, and in places that you recognize. Now, I'm sure you may have noticed several little nods and references hidden throughout the footage as well, so as you would expect, horror fans everywhere have been spending 6 hours analyzing the footage frame by frame, as any sort of tradition demands. And I do deeply appreciate that Haddonfield residents continue living there, year after year, despite overwhelming evidence that moving would solve most of their problems. Now, in more unfortunate news, I think we can all collectively agree that it is time to yell at our screens right now. I'll give everyone a moment. Good. Zack Snyder has signed on to write and direct a new reimagining of John Carpenter's 1981 cult classic, Escape from New York. So Snake has escaped development hell and entered an entirely different kind of hell. Let's remember what we're talking about here. A dystopian future where Manhattan has become a giant, maximum security prison. A one-eyed criminal is sent in to rescue the president, and somehow it all works perfectly. Escape from New York isn't just a movie. It's one of those films that influence everything around it, whether it be video games, action cinema, entire generations of anti-heroes, including a certain technical espionage expert you may have known as Solid Snake. But the second you mention Zack Snyder, you're starting a boss fight. Everyone already has an opinion on Zack Snyder. I, too, have several. Now, Snyder says he is aiming for something grittier and more practical than some of his more recent work. And if he can, by some miracle, channel the spirit of something more akin to his Dawn of the Dead remake, then maybe, just maybe, we can get the chaos that Escape from New York deserves. But again, a huge issue is replacing Snake. Kurt Russell didn't just play Snake, he became him. Every remake discussion immediately becomes, well, okay, well, who's playing Snake? And nobody seems to have a clear answer to that. Not to mention the fact that remaking John Carpenter is also dangerous, because Carpenter's films aren't beloved solely because of the stories. They're beloved because of the atmosphere, the music, and the attitude, and the feeling. You can remake the plots, but the feeling is much harder. Unsurprisingly, the internet has reacted with completely emotional stability about this, which is to say, in unison, everyone was shouting at the same time, abso-fucking-lutely not. So many of us are treating this like a natural disaster warning. Now, Escape from New York has been trying to get remade for nearly 2 decades now. At one point, Gerard Butler was attached. At another point, Robert Rodriguez was attached. Another point, Radio Silence and Leigh Whannell were attached. This is a remake that has had more lives than most horror villains. Now, the moment that they reveal the new Snake, the internet will transform into a maximum security prison of its own, and somewhere Kurt Russell is probably smiling beneath an eye patch, knowing that nobody has ever truly escaped New York. And finally, A24 has released the first trailer for Adam Wingard's Onslaught, the long-awaited action horror collab between Wingard and writing partner Simon Barrett, the duo behind You're Next and The Guest. And this appears to be exactly my kind of nonsense. Let's watch the trailer.
How long has it been here, Celeste? You need to get over your shit, soldier.
I like it here. It's safe.
Look, I got an emergency meeting. You're up, Mom.
No. It's a burrito. Eat a burrito with your hands. Like this. Quiet. Big bite.
That's my bro.
It's the second time that Black Hawk has gone over us today. They're up to something in the desert north of here. Kind of secret base or some shit.
What you are witnessing here is a human equivalent of a heat-seeking missile. Perfect soldier.
Would you mind telling me what I'm up against tonight?
We're set out to create an ideal combatant to be deployed against the domestic populace. These men are conditioned to kill until they are stopped.
Do you have any practical advice for engagement?
Use your best judgment and cover our tracks.
Don't be afraid. We're your government.
Where are you going?
Go to your room. Get under the bed. Mama needs to get her guns. Cover your ears.
Why?
I'm just gonna say a lot of bad words, okay?
You little bitch! Wrong trailer park, motherfucker!
Oh man, I cannot. Dude, September is going to be absolutely fucking going hard, man. I think after that trailer, you can basically just declare Subtlety legally dead at this point. Onslaught follows a former army sniper and must protect her daughter after a squad of genetically engineered super soldiers escapes from a secret military facility. It sounds less like a movie plot and more like someone combining every VHS action film from the 1980s into a blender at the same time. What's interesting is how this trailer presents these unstoppable military experiments like they are horror icons. They're slow, relentless, and seemingly impossible to stop. It's like Jason Voorhees if he had government funded. I love seeing Adam return to his roots. Before Godzilla and before Kong, there was You're Next and The Guest. And for me, The Guest is easily in my top 3 movies of the past 20 years. A film that was built on tension, style, and controlled chaos. And looking at this Onslaught, looks like Adam took those instincts and injected them with military-grade stimulants. Adria Orhana appears to be channeling serious Sarah Connor energy here. She's not a victim or a bystander, but a woman fully prepared to turn an apocalypse into a personal inconvenience. And I do appreciate that humanity continues creating secret military experiments despite centuries of evidence that this plan never works out the way that you think it will. Not even once. Not a single time. Onslaught feels like somebody asked, What if the guest in Terminator had a child raised entirely on horror movies? And then they spent millions of dollars proving it was a fantastic idea. If this trailer has shown anything, it's that September is going to be loud, violent, and absolutely covered in blood. And so another week of horror draws to a close. We have reviewed the remains, the announcements of disasters, and the occasionally competent decision, rare as though they may be. Horror continues to evolve, sometimes beautifully and sometimes catastrophically, but often through sequels that no one requested, but I digress. It continues to be a resilient genre. There's comfort in it because no matter how strange our world may become, horror will always find a way to reflect it, although sometimes it does so a little too accurately. To those of you who joined me tonight, who listened, who argued, and who defended objectively questionable films, you have my thanks. If you intend to return for the next report, follow ensures that you do not miss the next descent into cinematic decay. Should you continue supporting our revelry by subscribing to the channel, I will continue suffering through all of the news on your behalf. The weekends and the headlines may fade, but the rot still remains, as it always does. Until next time, fiends, stay observant and do try not to trust anything that is labeled as a reboot or a reimagination.